And this happens when they're disturbed. So they kind of do it as sort of their defense mechanism.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So you're scaring these things to death, and they are trying to defend themselves. Is that right?
Well, I mean, rain droplets could do it. It's just like their natural response is like when they're touched, they're like, "Bah." Hello and welcome to the Worldwide Honeymoon Travel Podcast, the podcast that talks about all things couples travel, including destinations, tips, advice, and more. I'm Kat.
I'm Chris.
And this is episode number 226.
How are your legs feeling?
Oh, fine. From all the hiking we've done?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Was that a threat?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I did cardio today. I didn't know if you were like concerned for my legs. There were some moves there that were particularly challenging for them. So,
what were those?
Anytime you gotta like do like, or it's not squatting. Why can I not get that?
Lunging?
Lunging. Like lunging with a weight and twisting, and it's just a whole thing. How are your legs?
Mine are good.
Good. Yeah, mine were fine.
It felt good to be back out in nature, back out on the trails. Mm-hmm. We went for back-to-back hikes this weekend. It was a long weekend, so it was pretty nice. We had a ton of stuff going on this weekend.
We did. We had some people over for dinner. We went over to someone's place for dinner. We hiked. And I think that's most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saw some fireworks.
Saw some fireworks. Yes, it was the 4th of July yesterday. So we're recording this on July 5th.
Yeah.
And it'll go live this time next week. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Do you have any highlights from this?
Well, I don't think so. I think my highlight is just like the weekend as a whole.
Yeah.
It was just one of those weekends that filled my cup. So
yeah.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I'd say pretty much the same. It was a good time. It was also, I think day 2 of hiking was really cool though, just because we had we did a pretty lengthy hike, and it was nice to be out in nature for a bit and just.
It was. I agree.
Enjoy that.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all we've been up to. Let's get right into the topic then for today.
Yeah, kick us off.
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about our trip to South Africa and Zambia and Zimbabwe, which has been great. I have talked about some of my trips earlier this year to France and Paris and Champagne, but I have not forgotten about the trip in between those two trips to Puerto Rico, where I got to spend 10 days. It was absolutely wonderful. I had a conference. I worked with Discover Puerto Rico, so their tourism board, for the southwestern part of the island. And then I also visited a couple of places on my own for research purposes, just to see them and things like that. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. More specifically, the bioluminescent bays of Puerto Rico.
These sounded awesome.
Yes.
This was something that we had wanted to try to do in Thailand, but they no longer offered it when we were there, which is like...
Yeah, because they closed the national park at 5:00, so before sunset.
Right.
In Thailand, so you can no longer go out there and see the bioluminescent bay. So of all of the bioluminescent bays, there are 5 in the entire world. 5 that are consistent bioluminescent bays.
Okay.
Now, there are some bioluminescent water things that'll happen. I've heard every once in a while on, like, in San Diego, sometimes the beaches will have those... the plankton that cause the bioluminescence
way.
That will show up. It's rare. It doesn't happen very often. And some phenomena will happen like that around different places in the world. But there are only 5 ecosystems where the concentration is high enough for it to be considered a bioluminescent bay and for it to be a consistent bioluminescent bay in the world. And 3 of them are in Puerto Rico.
Do you know where the other 2 are?
I want to say the one in Colipe is one of them.
Okay.
And I can't remember what the other one is.
That's okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. But, well, starting out, let's talk about what are bioluminescent bays. Like, how does this happen, essentially? So they are bodies of water where microscopic organisms called dinoflagellates grow in quantities large enough to produce a glow-in-the-dark effect called bioluminescence. And this happens when they're disturbed. So they kind of do it as sort of their defense mechanism.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So you're scaring these things to death, and they are trying to defend themselves. Is that right?
Well, I mean, rain droplets could do it. It's just like their natural response is like when they're touched, they're like, "Bah," and they make, because you can't see them with the naked eye. During the day, if you go to these bioluminescent bays, you cannot see the plankton. It's a plankton. And I recognize the name dinoflagellants, and I remembered it because the guide on one of the tours I did for this says it sounds like dinoflatulence, like dinosaurs tooting. So that's how I remembered it.
You were a first grader.
So I didn't forget. But yes, they are in a concentrated enough environment to be there. And it's usually salt water, some pretty dense salt water, and even extra salty salt water is a really, really good environment for that. So one of the bays that we went to, or actually a couple of the bays that I went to in Puerto Rico, because it's sort of cut off from the main ocean in this bay area, like with the mangrove trees and stuff like that, it sort of makes the saltwater concentrated a little bit more than in the standard ocean, which makes it great for these dinoflagellates to grow.
Interesting.
And so that's why it's like the perfect environment for them to be there. And that's why they are in Puerto Rico. There's quite a few environments where you've got these mangrove trees sort of making this like perfect area for it to get extra salty, and then the bioluminescence happens.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, where are the bioluminescent bays in Puerto Rico? Because like I said, there are 3 of them. There's Laguna Grande and Fajardo. And that's going to be the closest one to San Juan. And I think a lot of people either try to do that as like sort of an evening trip or just an overnight. You can go do that from San Juan. La Parguera and Lajas. And that's the only one that you can swim in. The rest of them are kayaking only. You can't actually swim in the water there. And that one is in the southwestern part of Puerto Rico. And then Mosquito Bay and Vieques, which is a smaller island off of the coast of Puerto Rico. Yeah.
How easy was it to see all 3 of them while you were there?
I actually did not see the Laguna Grande while I was there. I did see 2 out of the 3.
So just to kind of put it into perspective here, how easy would it be to see the 3? Like at that point, are you staying in multiple locations to do it? Are you staying in one location and just kind of doing like 3 different night excursions? You know what I mean?
I would actually recommend going to 3 different locations.
Okay.
The closest one, Laguna Grande, is actually only about an hour and 15 minutes driving from San Juan.
Oh, okay.
So you could do, if you wanted to drive later at night, you could drive out there and then go do it and then drive back to San Juan. But you may as well just spend the night because sometimes it does tend to be later. By the time it's over, it's around 9 o'clock or so.
Okay.
And then Vieques, you obviously either have to fly or take the ferry to, and then you pretty much need to drive all the way to La Parguera.
Okay.
Because that's the complete opposite side of the island from San Juan.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So you're not basing yourself in one area and trying to hit up all 3.
No, but you could certainly plan a trip around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
And do all 3, especially in a 10-day period. I just was doing different things that I didn't have time to go see the last one. But
yeah,
we'll talk about how to get to each of these now.
Okay.
Now to be more specific.
Hold on. Before we talk about how to get to them, actually, you know what? Do talk about that first. And then I would be curious to hear, because I know that this was your first bioluminescent experience. Mm-hmm. I would be curious to think like what you thought, like just like we do every time, like thoughts prior to arrival, first impressions, all that kind of stuff. But let's get the logistics out of the way.
Okay. So the first bioluminescent bay, Laguna Grande, that's the one that's about an hour and 15 minutes from San Juan. They do recommend that you spend the night there. I think I have seen a couple of tours that go out from San Juan and come back, so you could potentially do that. And this is the most visited because it's the closest to San Juan. And this one is a kayak only. And it's on the eastern part of the island. Mosquito Bay is on the island of Vieques, and you can either take a 30-minute plane ride from the airport in San Juan. I took Airlink Vieques when I went, or you can leave from Ciba, which is an hour and a half from San Juan, and take the ferry over. And that's about a 30-minute ferry ride to Vieques. And then La Parguera, That one is about 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2.5 hours from San Juan in the southwestern part of the island. So Puerto Rico, I mean, when you look at it on a map, it looks pretty tiny in comparison to other places, but is actually quite large. It takes 2.5 hours almost to get to the other side of the island from San Juan. So I would recommend just kind of basing yourself there for that.
Yeah, and when you put it in that perspective, like you wouldn't want to stay on one side of the island, wait and like drive so that it gets dark, go do this excursion, and then drive 2.5 hours back. That'd be a long time. So definitely break it up.
Like, is it impossible? No, but you would be driving in the dark across the island, which it's, if you feel comfortable driving in the dark, I mean, they have regular highways and stuff like that. So it's pretty much like driving here on the mainland US. So it's not a huge deal, but you know, if you don't feel like driving in the dark, maybe don't. or driving that late, because you'll probably get back to San Juan between 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to like drive 2.5 hours, go do something, and then drive 2.5 hours back, all within like a very quick span. Like that to me, it like when I was like, oh yeah, you definitely want to like break this up. It was more from an exhaustion standpoint.
Yeah, and
maybe actually, that's just me.
Yeah, and then this gives you the chance to explore the western part of the island if you go to La Parguera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's actually only about an hour or so from Rincon, which is like the surfing capital of Puerto Rico, great beaches.
Cool.
That sort of thing.
So what were you thinking before you got there? Like when this sort of, when the Bioluminescent Bay experience like came onto your radar with Discover Puerto Rico, what were you thinking? Was it something that you had, was it something that you had thought about beforehand? Was it something that they kind of brought to your radar at first? How did all of this happen?
I will say, I think the first time I'd ever heard about it was when I was wedding planning, when we were wedding planning. It's
nice to be included.
No, you were very involved. But I followed, I remember a friend gave me a book called The Practical Wedding Planner and like that sort of thing. So it helped me sort of narrow down things and really focus on what was important to us for the wedding so that we could like make sure that that's where we spend our money on instead of other things, et cetera, et cetera. So they have a website called apracticalwedding.com, and the founder and owner of that, I like follow the main Instagram account for A Practical Wedding, and I remember seeing that she went to Puerto Rico around the time we were wedding planning and the stories, and she got to go to the bioluminescent bay that you could swim in. So I believe she was in La Parguera. And I was like, that is so amazing that you can do this. And it's so cool. And then a few years later, one of my friends, right before COVID, actually went to Vieques in Puerto Rico and went to the brightest bioluminescent bay in the world. And she said it was epic. And I just knew that I had to go after hearing about those two things. I don't know. I mean, even on our honeymoon, we were interested in seeing the bioluminescent bay in Thailand. Until we found out we weren't allowed to anymore. So that's always been fascinating just to be able to see that. I think that's very magical looking.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That just sort of mesmerized me.
Okay.
To be able to see that in person.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward. Now you're in the water. Okay. And you are starting to terrify these poor creatures so that they will light up for your enjoyment.
I don't necessarily think they're doing it because they're terrifying.
Do they have a central nervous system?
I don't believe so. I mean, they are like a one-cell organism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So these things are starting to become terrified.
No, okay.
And you are starting to smile and go, wow, I'm really scaring a lot of them because they're lighting up around me. How does that feel? Is it pretty cool? Did that rise to your expectations? Was it as visually stunning as possible?
No, that's their defense mechanism that they do. I mean, if it rained, that would be happening. Like when the rain hits the water,
that would probably be incredibly painful for them.
They don't feel it. Okay?
I'm just giving you a hard time. So you're in the water and it starts to light up. What are you thinking?
Okay. So I'll just talk about Mosquito Bay first.
Cool.
So this is the brightest bioluminescent bay in the entire world. And this one you have to go on a kayak in. You cannot just go and swim in it. Brightest in the world. It has 1 million to 2.1 million dinoflagellates per per gallon of water.
Okay. Wow.
So it's highly concentrated.
Per gallon?
Per gallon of water. So there are billions upon billions of these guys in the water. And it's a big bay.
Wow.
So it's nighttime. You basically start in Esperanza, which was kind of the main touristy drag of Vieques. It's on the beach. And they have all of these vans picking up whichever kayak place that you signed up for. I signed up for Blackbeard Sports, specifically because they had clear bottom kayaks. And my friend Amanda from Dangerous Business specifically recommended to get a clear bottom kayak, and I agree with her. So definitely get a clear bottom kayak if you're going to do this, because it's amazing getting to see it beneath you happening as well as like on your sides and everything too.
Terror all around you.
Okay. So yeah, we get picked up. You go to the bay, they drive you over there, and then they get your kayaks in the water and you start paddling out.
Okay.
All right? And you're following the tour guide, all of that stuff. And then all of a sudden you start to kind of see something in the water. Like, you can't tell if it's like maybe cloudiness because maybe the water's murky or something, it just seems kind of dull. And then it gets brighter and brighter and brighter the more you get to the center of this bay.
And you hear screams.
And the darker you get... Will you stop? It's not like that. The darker it gets, too. So, yeah, you get to see how bright it is. And it's absolutely insane. There was a marine biologist that was there with us and kind of explained some of the information about it, too, about them. And then we kind of got to splash our hands. I felt like a little kid again. Like, I'd splash my hand around just to see it. And it looked really cool. If you're paddling, the second your oar hits the water, it just lights up. And even beneath you with the clear bottom kayak, it's lighting up. So it looks like you're going through like warp speed in space or something. It's really epic.
Can I ask 2 questions here?
Yeah.
So is this something where like you dip your oar in the water and then you take your oar out of the water and the oar is still lighting up?
It does a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
My other question is, I'm trying to like picture the water, right? Is it more like a hazy IPA sort of like murky kind of like that? Or is it more like a night sky where there's like, you can make out like individual, like twinkle lights kind of thing?
A night sky.
What?
That's how cool it is. It's like the day that I went, it was a pretty clear night. So you saw the stars above and it looked like there were stars below.
That's really cool.
It was completely epic. And it was really cool being the brightest bioluminescent bay in the world. If a fish was swimming around, you could see it. And it looked like in Harry Potter, a Patronus. Like, it literally looked like a fish Patronus swimming through the water.
Seriously?
Yeah. So you would see fish swimming like 5-10 feet beneath you, and they would just like disturb it and swim off, and it looks like a little fish Patronus because it's got it all in its wake, all the little dinoflagellates.
Did you make any HP jokes?
No, but our guide was like, yeah, it's like they're little Patronuses in the water. And it was just so much fun. We spent maybe an hour out there kayaking around. There are some areas where it's even brighter that you'll just happen to find where it's just particularly luminous, I suppose. But I will say that it's best if you go closer to a new moon. So instead of a full moon, so the darker the better. And if it rains, they don't cancel it because it actually looks really epic if it's raining on the bay and all of it's lighting up at the same time. So that's really cool. Like, she had us cup some water and like toss it, and it would look like she was like, this is what it looks like when it rains.
Yeah, send these poor creatures flying through the air.
Since they're like one-celled organisms. If you were to swim in it during the day, you would be touching them. They just don't light up during the day because they need the sun. They they're solar powered essentially.
Man, yeah. Yes. So that was the coolest one, you thought?
I don't know. I mean, it was epic in the fact that it's certainly the brightest.
Okay.
You see a lot. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible as you're paddling. It just gets brighter and brighter and brighter. It's a really, really cool thing to do. And I highly recommend spending a couple days on Vieques. I can do a whole episode about just the island of Vieques. There's beaches, there's horses running around. You can go snorkeling. It's just a fantastic island. But yeah, the brightest in the world, the brightest bioluminescent bay. Get a clear bottom kayak and it'll look like you're in space below you.
Awesome.
It's so cool. All right. Do you want me to talk about La Parguera?
Yeah.
Okay. So La Parguera is the only bio bay in Puerto Rico that you can swim in. So this was part of my Discover Puerto Rico tour. So thank you, Discover Puerto Rico, for arranging this. We stayed in Lajas in the southwestern part of the island. So again, about 2 hours, 15 minutes from San Juan, or about an hour from Rincon. And this area has awesome keys that you can go and swim at with like little beaches and go snorkeling too. And we actually went for the Bioluminescent Bay, we went with Paradise Scuba and Snorkeling Center. And it starts out with a sunset snorkel around the keys, around the different things there. So you can go and snorkel around and see fish and corals and things as the sun is starting to set.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then you get on the boat. We had the most beautiful sunset because it had rained right as we were getting on the boat, and then it cleared up and it was beautiful. So then after the sunset, you start heading out to the Bioluminescent Bay, where you'll pull up, you get your snorkel gear back on, and you jump in the water. And it was incredibly unique to see this. It was not nearly as bright as I would say the one in Mosquito Bay in Vieques was, where like the second you touch the water, it's like, brah, like crazy. But the second you put your head under and you start moving your arm around, you see it all light up around your arm, and it just looks like magical. Like you feel like a wizard.
Is it something where you can just kind of like stick your head in and look down? Or are you swimming right now?
You kind of have to swim to see it.
Well,
Yeah.
Are you standing, I should ask?
No, you cannot feel the bottom.
Okay.
So you are snorkeling.
So you do have to like move around sort of
Yeah.
thing. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's completely black water. You go right in. I mean, I don't know what it looks like during the day, but it's I believe pretty murky. And it's in a bay, so, you know, I wasn't terribly worried about sharks. Someone did get stung by a jellyfish. They were fine, but just beware of that. But it was an epic experience to get to swim around and just play around in there and get to like see all of it moving around your arms. And it was the same thing where you lifted your arm out of the water, you would see it still lit up. It was a completely unique experience. Like, is it as bright as Vieques? No, but it is the only one that you can swim in and have that experience where you kind of see it all around you as you're swimming and
Awesome.
making movements. That was a really epic experience. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of the two bioluminescent bays that I went to. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's extremely unique to be able to do that and go under and see all of that. Yeah. And some other things to do in La Parguera is, again, go snorkeling on those keys. They have the chili boats, which is sort of like you're in a recumbent bike that boats along the water, which was fun doing that as well. And then we also went up to Rincon and did a surf lesson. So I can probably talk about the southwestern part of Puerto Rico in another episode, but it's certainly worth spending a few days in La Parguera or Rincon and going and doing those. And this you could probably do from Rincon if you wanted to, because it's only an hour away.
Okay.
So if you wanted to base yourself in Rincon, which is a more popular place to be, and then take an evening trip down there and back, you could. And I think it would be a lot of fun because it is a longer tour with the snorkeling beforehand and then the snorkeling in the bioluminescent bay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. From like a photography or videography standpoint, is it easy to pick it up? Is it?
No.
So this is, I mean, that's kind of cool though, right? In that you can just worry about you experiencing it rather than trying to move, snap a picture. They weren't scared enough. Let me see if I can rile them up again this time. But like, it's just for you.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a couple photos from somebody on the boat while we were in the water, and they were like, you basically have to put it on long exposure on the phone, and you guys have to kick like crazy, and it just looks like a big blue blur. It's like black with a blue blur in it.
Yeah,
and that's all you really get. It's not like, it's almost impossible to catch the individual little like plankton doing their thing.
Got it.
So it's really, really hard to catch unless you have very specific photography equipment and stuff, but honestly, I would just recommend don't even try. Even filming it, you can't get it. Like, it's just, it happens so fast the camera just can't catch it.
Nice.
And even if you do long exposure, it's blurry because they're moving around, you know?
Okay.
So it's, yeah, I recommend just not taking your phone and just enjoying it and enjoy swimming in the water and being present in the moment and playing around and seeing all of that light up around you. that was epic to just kick my feet around and see it. And it was just so cool. And then also in the kayak, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Listen to the guide, because both sessions that I went to had lots of great information about the bay, why it was so salty, all that stuff, and then how all information about these little plankton that light up.
How does this compare to other wildlife encounters, I will say?
I mean, I don't know.
You can't see them, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you're really only seeing, like, it would be like if you could only hear the roar of a lion, but you couldn't actually see a lion.
Kind of. I would say, like, there was one time when we went camping in Kentucky, my family, when I was a kid. It was in the middle of summer, and I remember we went down. It was really dark outside. We went down near the river, and we saw all these fireflies just completely lighting up the trees. And I know that they have something that happens pretty much every year in Tennessee, where they'll have the firefly thing that happens, and you can like enter the lottery system to go and actually get to go see it.
That's cool.
In the Smoky Mountains. So it's kind of like that, but in the water.
Okay.
So it was a really cool experience to get to do that. I would say other bioluminescent experiences you can do too in the wild would be like the glowworm caves in Waitamo, in New Zealand. I remember talking about that. I was like, I really want to do that because I really want to see the glowworms lighting up as you kind of blackwater raft and stuff in New Zealand.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Cool. Anything else, or are we at the point where you say, is it worth visiting again? It sounds like you're glad you did it, obviously. Yeah,
I would say avoid like sunscreens and bug sprays and stuff. I mean, it's dark already at this time and you're going on a boat, so you're not really like, the mosquito thing isn't as big of an issue.
Yeah, buck up.
You don't want to like harm them with the different, sun creams and mosquito repellents and things like that. Because that can be pretty damaging to both coral reefs and critters alike in the ocean. And then obviously wear the appropriate clothing if you're going kayaking. I wore like a swimsuit and some like exercise shorts and a t-shirt. And maybe, I think I had flip-flops on for it. And then when you go snorkeling, obviously something that you can swim in is good to have.
Okay.
Yeah. I packed my own snorkel. They provide them on the snorkel tour.
What a pro.
I know. Well, it's because we
Did
got
you
each
let them
other's
know
snorkel.
beforehand?
No.
Did you say, actually, I have mine?
No. Actually, I did.
It's like you're ordering a
they were handing me a
wand.
snorkel, and I was like, oh, no, I've got mine.
Springy, 13 and a half inches.
It doesn't help that I have, like, a small head. So, like, I kind of need, like, this one step up from the baby snorkel mask or, like, the children's snorkel mask. So I'm glad I have one that fits to my face because I was never able to get one that really fits my face before that.
There you go.
Yeah. So, yeah, wearing appropriate clothing for that. I also just like my snorkel, especially because it's mine and nobody else is putting their mouth and nose all over it. Like, so, and we have, like, the professional ones that we bought for each other for Christmas before St. Lucia. So I just carried that around the whole trip because I was like, there was one day I literally went snorkeling off the beach in Vieques because I was like, well, I have my own snorkel, and like went out there and saw some coral reefs, and it was really cool.
It is nice.
Yeah.
I will say it's nice to know that it always is like your size. You don't have to adjust it or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know that it's like gonna stay tight. I don't know.
Yeah. It was also nice, like, speaking of the Vieques thing, when I went snorkeling by myself, so I was afraid to, like, obviously be by myself snorkeling. And so I found this guy who had to have been a local who started swimming out where I was. And I was like, can I just, like, swim around you? Because I don't want to be by myself snorkeling. Like, it makes me nervous. And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. And he was so incredibly kind and even showed me some really cool snorkel spots. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. And then when I got out of the water, I was like, thanks.
That was nice of him.
It was nice of him.
All of that being said, you're back in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. Is this something that you're going to do again? Or is it like, you know what? I did it once. I would probably do other things if I were there, sort of thing.
No, 100%. I would do them again.
Do it again.
I think I would like to see the third one, the Laguna Grande.
Awesome.
But I'm very thankful for the two that I got to see. I would 100% go back to Mosquito Bay, the brightest in the world. I think it's epic. It's romantic if, you got your little tandem kayak together, looking at the beautiful stars above and stars below. Yeah, and just getting to swim in amongst the dino flagellates was really, really epic as well.
If you had to pick one, if you had time for one, are you doing Mosquito Bay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think because it's the brightest in the world and it's really cool to splash. You get to splash your hand and foot around and it's cool. But I know you feel like a little kid out there.
I was going to say, you sound like a kid getting ready for tub time.
No, you really feel like a little kid. You're just splashing around and like it's a lot of fun to see.
That's neat.
But I will say, if you can do both, if you can add both to your itinerary, I highly recommend those two.
Cool.
If you're going to do both of those, I don't necessarily think you need to do Laguna Grande because it's like kind of like Mosquito Bay, but not as bright.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like if you only have time for 2 or 3 like I did, I'm glad that I did it the way that I did. But I would like to go to Laguna Grande at some point too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other closing thoughts?
No, just enjoy it. Obviously, I really mean it about the camera thing. Just leave it at home. Enjoy your memories. Be in the moment because it is, it goes by quick and it's a lot of fun to get to either swim amongst the bioluminescent plankton in a bio bay or get to kayak and see it all around you.
Awesome.
It's really epic. But yeah, I think that's it. That's it for the amazing bioluminescent bays of Puerto Rico and how you can go visit them. So let me know your thoughts. Have you guys been to any of these and swam in them? Or if you've been to other ones in the world, let us know. You can always reach us at Twitter at WWHoneymoon, Instagram at Worldwide Honeymoon, or email Kat at worldwidehoneymoon.com. But thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to rate and review our podcast. It takes less than a few minutes and really helps other people find us. Also, if you're enjoying this awesome free information on both the blog and podcast, when you're booking your next trip, head over to worldwidehoneymoon.com/resources and use the links provided. We earn a small commission at no cost to you when you book through these links, and these are all brands and companies we know, love, and use, like Skyscanner for finding the best flight prices, World Nomads for the best travel insurance, TripAdvisor for hotel bookings and reviews, and even Amazon for all of your travel purchases.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Wherever you are, wherever you go, remember to make every day a worldwide honeymoon.